All right. So in order to add or subtract fractions, we need to have a common denominator. If we don't have it, we need to create a common denominator using the least common multiple. Okay. So we need a common denominator. If we don't have it, we got to create it using the least common multiple. So very simply, if we have this 1/2 plus 3/5, okay, back to first grade math. So 1/2 plus 3/5. Well, we don't have a common denominator. One of them has a denominator of 2. One of them has a denominator of 5. So we can't really do that. So we need to find the least common multiple. Well, mental math will tell us that the least common multiple of 2 and 5 is 10. Okay. So 1 over 1/2 really becomes 5/10 because we multiply this by 5 over 5. And we multiply this thing by 2 over 2 to get the least common multiple of 10. So we get 5/10 plus 6/10. And then, once we have a common denominator there, we add or subtract the numerators. So 5/10 plus 6/10 is 11/10. And then we have our answer, and then we're good to go. All right. So again, adding or subtracting fractions, we have to have a common denominator. If we don't have it, we got to create it. Okay, getting the least common multiple. We're going to talk about the least common multiple up here on the second page. Don't want to get ahead of ourselves here. First thing I want to do is perform the indicated operation and simplify. So you see with these, we already have common denominators already. So because we have common denominators already, all we have to do is add or subtract the numerators and then simplify from there. So if I'm looking at number 1, 7 over 12x minus 5 over 12x. Well, again, common denominator is there, it's 12x. 7 minus 5 is 2. Okay? So the final answer for that is 2 over 12x. However, it's also asking us to simplify. Okay? So if we got to simplify 2 over 12x, we can reduce the 2 out of 12 and divide 2 and make it 1 out of 6. So the answer would be 1 over 6x. Okay, so you can do that process for the next 3. Pause the video if you need to. And once you're done, you can resume the video and we'll talk about how to find the least common multiple. For least common multiple, first thing we want to do is we want to factor each polynomial. I'm going to add factor each polynomial completely. It's very important to do that, just so we know everything that we have. And then we're going to write each factor to the highest power that it occurs in either polynomial. So let's just say hypothetically, okay? Let's just say hypothetically we have the numbers 9 and 12. And we want to find the least common multiple of 9 and 12, okay? Well, what I want to do is let's factor 9 and 12 completely, okay? So 9 is 3 times 3. 12 is, 4 times 3, which is really 2 times 2 times 3. Okay? So we want to find the least common multiple between 9 and 12. So we factor those numbers completely. Okay, so we have 3 times 3, and then we have 2 times 2 times 3. Okay? So we want to write each factor to the highest power it occurs in either polynomial. So the factors of 9 are 3 and 3. Okay, the factors of 12 are 2, 2, and 3. Okay? So the least common multiple is we're going to take all the factors to the highest power that they occur. So 3, we have a factor of 3. Okay? And now 3 occurs twice here, which is really 3 squared, right? And it only occurs once there. So 3 is the highest factor of 3 is over here. There's 2 3s. Okay, so write each factor to the highest power it occurs in either polynomial. Okay, and we have the factor of 2 over here. All right, and since there's 2 2's here and no 2's here, we're going to multiply that by 2 squared there. Okay, so what ends up happening is the least common multiple between 9 and 12 is 3 squared times 2 squared. Okay, 3 squared is 9, 2 squared is 4. So the least common multiple between 9 and 12 is 36. Okay, so we completely factor it. So we get 3 times 3, and we get 2 times 2 times 3. And so each factor that we just have really 2's and 3's here. So we're going to write each factor to the highest power it occurs. So 3 halves is the highest power, or 3 to the second power is the highest of power because there's 2 3's there and only 1 there. So the higher factor wins. Here there's 2 2's. Here there's no 2's. So the 2 2's win. So 3 squared times 2 squared is 36. And so 36 is the least common multiple of 9 and 12. Probably review. But we're still going to sort of keep the same concept as we go to these other ones here. Okay. All right. So least common multiple of 4x squared minus 16 and 6x squared minus 24x plus 24. So let's start here with the 4x squared minus 16. Okay. First thing we could do is we could factor the 4 out. Okay. So when we did factoring, the first thing we wanted to do is, okay, is there any number we can divide out of there before we apply any of our rules? Okay. So we divide the 4 out of there. So we end up with 4 of x squared minus 4. Okay. And we should see that the x squared minus 4 is a difference of squares. Okay. X squared minus 4 is a difference of squares, meaning that becomes x plus 2 times x minus 2. All right. So that's that. Now, if we're looking at the other one, we have 6x squared minus 24x plus 24. Okay, first thing that we can do is we could pull out 6. We could divide 6 out of all, because 6 multiplies into all those things. So we divide out 6 and we get x squared minus 4x plus 4. Okay, next we could factor out this thing, and we're looking for 2x's. This is a trinomial here that multiply to positive 4 that add a negative 4. And that's going to be x minus 2 and x minus 2. Furthermore, we need to completely factor the numbers out as well. So I kind of neglected to do that earlier. So instead of the 4, that's a 2 times 2. Instead of the 6 there, that's really going to be 3 times 2. Okay. So if we look at all the possible factors we have in this thing, we can list them if we want to. Okay. We have 2, 3, right? And we have x plus 2, and we have x minus 2. Those are all the factors that go into this and this. Okay. 2, 2, x plus 2, x minus 2, and then 3, 2, x minus 2, x minus 2. Okay. Now we just got to find out which one occurs the highest, right? We want to write each factor to the highest power it occurs in either polynomial. So the 2's, start with the 2's. Well, there's 2 2's here and there's 1 2 here. So our final answer is going to have 2 2's. So 2 squared. The 3's, well, there's 1 3 here, no 3's there. So the 1 3 is going to take precedent. Okay. Next, we have the x plus 2. So we have 1x plus 2 here, none here. So the 1x plus 2 is going to win. And then lastly, we have 1x minus 2 here, 2x minus 2 is there. So we're going to multiply 2 of the x minus 2's. So the least common multiple for all these, if we simplify it down, we have 2 squared times 3, which is 12, times x plus 2, times x minus 2 squared. And we can leave it written just like that, okay? We can leave it written just like that because that'll sort of keep it a little bit simpler here in terms of how we can multiply to do all that. That's how you find the least common multiple. If you want to, skip this example problem for right now, and then try to go find the least common multiples here on numbers 5 and 6 using that example. So we use the example we just did to find those least common multiples there, and then we'll come back and do this sample problem next. All right. So we got this. We have 7 over 9x squared plus x over 3x squared plus 3x. So let's first rewrite this and factor out the denominators there. So we have 7 over 9x squared plus x. Now, if we factor this denominator out here, we have 3x squared plus 3x, which is really 3x times x plus 1. Okay. Now the 9x squared, we can sort of rewrite that. Instead of 9x, we can call it 3 squared x. It's a little messy there. So instead of 9x, that's really 3 squared x squared. Okay. So for our least common multiple, let's look at our factors here. So we have 3x, 3x and x plus 1. Okay. 3x and x plus 1. So our least common multiple, right? So how many 3's do we have? Well, we have 2 here and 1 there, so 2 takes precedence. So we have 3 squared, right? How many x's do we have? Well, we have x squared here, 1x there, so x squared takes precedent. And then we have 1x plus 1 there, none there, so we have x plus 1 there. Okay, so simplifying it down, the least common multiple is going to be 9x squared x plus 1. Okay, that's going to be our least common multiple. Okay, so our least common multiple, and that's going to be our common denominator, is going to be 9x squared times x plus 1. Okay, so we come back and rewrite this. So we have 7 over 9x squared plus x over 3x times x plus 1. Now this fraction over here on the left-hand side, our denominator right there is 9x squared. Okay, but we need the denominator to be 9x squared parentheses x plus 1. Okay, so in order to do that, we're going to have to multiply this fraction by x plus 1 over x plus 1, which makes this thing 7 x plus 1 over 9x squared x plus 1. Coming over here, our denominator is 3x times x plus 1, but we need it to be 9x squared times x plus 1, okay? So in order to get that 9x squared, we got to multiply by another 3, and we got to multiply by another x. We already have the x plus 1, but we need to get that 3x to a 9x squared, so we'll multiply that by 3x over 3x, which makes our equation here, we have 3x squared over 9x squared times x plus 1. Just getting a common denominator here. Getting a common denominator. Now we can finish adding our fraction. So 7 times parentheses x plus 1. That'll be 7x plus 7 plus the 3x squared all over 9x squared times x plus 1. And that would be our final answer. Unless we can simplify this thing further, which I don't think we can. A little bit more complex when we have these, polynomials rather than numbers, but the concept, ladies and gentlemen, still sort of remains the same. Okay, the concept remains the same. So we have a subtraction one here, sort of the same deal, but why don't we go ahead and do this one here as well. So starting off, we have to, we'll start off by factoring some of the stuff out. So here on the first one, we have x plus 2 over 2 times x minus 1. And on top there, we have minus negative 2x minus 1. Can't factor that out at all. And then we have x squared minus 4x plus 3. So we need two numbers that multiply to negative 3 and add to negative, or multiply to 3 and add to negative 4. So that's going to be x minus 3 times x minus 1. So we got to find the least common multiple from our denominator. So looking at the factors that we have 2, x minus 1, and x minus 3. Okay, there's 1, 2. Okay, there's 1, 2 in this thing, no 2's there, so the 1, 2 will take precedent. There's 1 x minus 1 in each, and there's 1 x minus 3 in each. So our least common denominator is going to be 2 parentheses x minus 1 times x minus 3. So how do we get there? Well, here we have 2 times parentheses x minus 1, and we have to multiply an x minus 3 on there. So we got to multiply this side by x minus 3 over x minus 3. Okay, and then over here, again, we need 2 times x minus 1 times x minus 3. So over here, we're going to have to multiply by 2 over 2 to get the common denominator. So up top here, we have x minus 3 times x plus 2 over 2 times x minus 1 times x plus 3. Then we're going to minus 2 going into that, so negative 4x minus 4 over 2 times x minus 1 times x minus 3. To simplify this down, we will have to FOIL this thing out. So we have x minus 3 times x plus 2. I'm just going to rewrite it in here to save space. So you FOIL that out, you're going to get x squared minus 1 x minus 6. That's going to give us x squared minus 1x minus 6. And we're going to subtract this. So x squared stays. Then we have negative 1x minus negative 4x, so that'll be plus 3x, because negative 1 minus negative 4 is negative 1 plus 4. So we have x squared plus 3x, and then we have negative 6 minus negative 4. So negative 6 plus 4 is negative 2. All right, and then we'll divide that by 2 times x minus 1 times x plus 3. Actually, looking at my thing, I made a little mathematical error here. Just saw that. This 2 times a negative 1 should be negative 2. So negative 6 minus negative 2 would be negative 4 over here. Apologize for that. A little careless mistake. So now this thing could even simplify further. Okay, so we have x squared plus 3x minus 4. That factors out. So two numbers that multiply to negative 4 that add to 3, positive 4, negative 1. Okay, so that becomes x plus 4 times x minus 1 on top. Then we have 2 times x minus 1 times x plus 3 on the bottom. Okay, and so what happens is we see this thing here. The x minus 1s cancel out. So we end up with a final answer of x plus 4 on top, all over 2 times x plus 3 on the bottom. That should be minus 3. I'm sorry. Minus 3. So x plus 4 over 2 times parentheses x minus 3. And there we go. It's kind of a long process, so we only have a couple practice problems here. So go ahead and try a couple of these out, particularly some of these ones on the bottom there. If you have any questions, please let me know. Y'all take care.